Today on Sugar Spun Run, I'll be showing you how to make homemade Madeleines. Hey Sugar Spun Bakers, Sam here, and today I am sharing a recipe that is notoriously a little bit fussy, requires quite a bit of technique, and I'm making it really simple. I think you're going to love my simplified version of Madeleines. I did so many taste tests and every single one of my taste testers loved my version better than any other recipe we tried or any other recipe they tried anywhere else. So to get started, you're going to want to preheat your oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit. Now to make Madeleines, of course, you need a Madeleine pan. This is my favorite and I will link to it in the recipe notes or somewhere down below in the printable recipe so you can get the same one if you'd like, but you do need a pan, a Madeleine pan, to make this recipe. Now I'm going to begin by greasing this pan, and you could use baking spray to spray the pan, that would work fine, but because it's going to be covering such a large surface area of the cookie or cake, depending on what you want to call it, I prefer to make my own nonstick coating by using real butter, just because it makes the flavor a little bit better. Now you'll want to melt 1 tablespoon of unsalted butter, and we're going to add 1.5 teaspoons of flour. I'm just going to stir these together really well. Should use a whisk, but mine's dirty right now. And just use a pastry brush to lightly coat each cavity with a little bit of that mixture we just made. You want to brush each mold thoroughly, but you don't want there to be too thick of a layer. You're not going to use all of this coating, but set it aside for now because you're going to need it when you go to bake your second pan of Madeleines. Now the next thing you want to do is melt another 10 tablespoons of unsalted butter. We're just going to set this aside for now because we want it to cool a little bit. We're not going to be using it until a little bit later on in the recipe. Now while that's cooling, you're going to want to grab a large mixing bowl. Now you're going to need 2 large eggs, a half cup of granulated sugar, and this is not necessarily a traditional Madeleine ingredient, but I love to also use 3 tablespoons of firmly packed light brown sugar. It enriches the Madeleine, it gives it a nicer flavor, and it also helps encourage a slight caramelization on the bottom of each shell that's just amazing. So I highly recommend it. We'll also add 2 teaspoons of pure vanilla extract and just 1/8 teaspoon of salt, and that's just regular table salt. So here's another way that my recipe deviates from the more classic way that Madeleines are usually made. Now, many recipes require you to combine the eggs and sugar and just whip them with an electric mixer on high speed for many minutes until they've reached the ribbon stage, which basically means the texture's changed, it's increased in volume, you've beaten a lot of air into those eggs. After so much testing, I finally developed a recipe that does not require you to go through all of that ribboning, all of that mixing, and yet it still yields perfectly amazing, delicious, light Madeleines with that signature Madeleine hump. Now, we're going to beat our eggs and our sugar together. We're going to use a whisk, and you want to mix everything together really well, but there's no need to worry about any kind of ribboning here. Now, many Madeleines add a little bit of citrus zest for a little extra flavor. If you'd like, you can add 1 to 2 teaspoons of freshly grated lemon zest or orange zest in here as well. I'll whisk these ingredients together very vigorously with my whisk for about 30 seconds. When I'm finished, it'll usually be a little bit foamy on top. Now the next ingredient that you need is 1 1/4 cups of all-purpose flour. We're actually going to gradually sift this into our egg mixture. I like to add about 1/3 at a time. Just use a spatula after each addition to gently incorporate the ingredients. Once you've added all of your flour, go ahead and grab that butter that we melted earlier, and remember this is 10 tablespoons of melted unsalted butter. This has had a little bit of time to cool, so now I'm just going to pour it around the edge of the batter. This just helps evenly distribute the cooled butter, and once you've added it, now we are going to use our spatula to gently work that butter into the rest of our batter. Your batter is a little thick at this point, and the butter and the batter are not going to want to incorporate very easily, so just make sure that you are being gentle when you're combining everything. Don't grab a whisk and just beat it really badly. Just be a little bit patient, everything will come together. Once you have that butter completely incorporated, we're ready to bake our batter. Now you're going to want to measure out a heaping 1 tablespoon measurement and just drop that in the center of each mold. So here's another way that my recipe is different and, in my opinion, better than many classic Madeleine recipes. Most recipes require a resting time of at least 30 minutes. Many of them require even more time. My recipe does not need to be rested or left to chill in the refrigerator at all. You can go ahead and scoop this batter into your Madeleine pan right away. The batter will spread out a little bit on its own, but you don't have to worry about spreading it yourself. It will naturally just spread through the mold while it's baking in the oven. This recipe makes about 20 Madeleines, so if your pan is the same size as mine, you are going to have some leftover batter and you'll use that for your second batch. Once your first batch cools, just go ahead, coat it with your butter mixture that we made in the beginning again, and just bake your next batch. Now we'll take these over to our 375 Fahrenheit preheated oven, where they're going to need to bake for about 9 minutes. When they're finished baking, they should have small humps in the center, and they should be light golden brown and spring back when touched. Once your Madeleines have finished baking, you'll want to immediately and carefully, because they're hot, transfer them to a cooling rack where they'll cool completely. Because we greased that pan nicely, they should slide right out. Look at this perfect Madeleine. It has the perfect hump. I want to make sure you can see that. The perfect shape, the perfect texture. I think you are going to absolutely love this recipe. Many versions will dust them with a little bit of powdered sugar or even dip them in chocolate. You can certainly do that with these, but they are also excellent when enjoyed on their own. I hope you guys enjoyed today's recipe. If you try it out, please let me know what you think. I always love hearing from you. See you next time. These are amazing.